Welcome to the What You Don't Know podcast, brought to you by the Know Like Trust Report, which is a simple, actionable survey that asks the most important questions. My name is Teri Nichols, and today I am very honored to have as my guest Elliot Silber, who lives in Chicago and who has a lot of experience with networking and connections and businesses. And so, this podcast could probably go several hours, but, we're going to try to keep it short. Just stay with the really, really great nuggets for you. But Elliot, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Good
And
morning.
why don't we start? I'm really, really curious how you got to start a networking organization. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the networking that you've done and like these organizations that you created that were around business connections.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. And
Thank you for being
after
here.
a long life of being a serial entrepreneur and many things from the sciences to business to being a sales professional to a number of things, I put together a group on request to create a series of newspapers in the North Shore of Chicago, in the affluent North Shore. And they said, "Would you like to be a part of it?" To which I said, and the man I put in charge of it, who knew all about it, a friend of mine, passed away in the first year, and I ended up having to run it for 19 years. We started as the official publications of Chambers of Commerce in the North Shore of Chicago, in the affluent,
Wow.
again, affluent North Shore, starting
How
with,
many chambers were there?
well, there are 25,000 chambers in the United States, and we were targeting a number of them as we were going to expand.
Okay.
We started
Okay.
with one, and of course, we ended up being members of 13 chambers of commerce and 9 other networking groups. So my partner and
Okay.
I used to go to 10 to 15 networking meetings a week to meet
Wow.
people. And then I would have some of my salespeople go. In the beginning, we'd all come back with 2 to 3 leads each, and that would develop into advertisers for our newspapers. After that,
Oh.
we did an affiliate program. Instead of being the official publications of Chambers of Commerce, we did an affiliate program so that if you were a member of the chamber, you got a greatly discounted rate on advertising. That promoted the Chambers of Commerce. They promoted us,
Sure.
and people won by getting lower rates. So it was a win-win-win all at the same time.
Win.
It was a
Yeah.
triple
That's
win.
so cool.
And so some of the
How
chambers,
does Go ahead.
yes, well, some of the chambers were
No, go.
using us to market themselves. And so
Oh, I
from that,
bet.
yeah, from that, eventually I created my own networking group because I wanted to have a different format. People were coming in
Okay.
and talking about themselves for 20 minutes, or they'd have somebody on up front. And I thought, we're all getting bored with that. You can't do that. You got to give something of value when you go to a networking meeting. So I set up, upon request, I was actually requested to take over a group that was operating. I said, only if I can set up the business plan and the format in a certain way. And they said, fine. And so we called it Leaders Networking Breakfast. You got
Okay.
you got 7 minutes to talk about yourself, but I wanted you to leave something for the group, some nuggets. You had to bring nuggets for the group, and you only had 7 minutes. That was it. So we were able to
Okay.
do that successfully. People loved it. They streamed to it, and it became a model for others. I started it about 12, 13 years ago. Then I had a medical problem for a while, 6 years ago, and they're still running it. They're taking my format, they're still running it.
When you say 7 minutes, how many people attended that event?
Oh, we would have 25 to 45 on average.
But they
But
all got
only,
seven
no,
minutes.
but one person got to speak for 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Okay.
We taught people how to present themselves I think it was 15 to 20 seconds. And
Right.
we
Okay.
would teach the networking tools of how to speak and how to create that elevator pitch, that to be
Yeah.
able to say what it was, and not to start with I am so and so. That's not the way you start. You have to generate interest first. So
Yeah.
I wrote a book about this, as a matter of fact, and in
Oh
there it
yeah.
talks about the questions. So people would start with, if there were a way you could get your house painted faster, more economically, with someone you enjoyed so you could sleep at night better, would you be interested? Hi, I'm Elliot Silber of da 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 da, and I can help you do that. So you got the interest
Yeah.
first, not instead of the boring, hi, I'm Elliot, and I have the greatest painting company in the world. No, not the way to do it.
Right. Yeah. Appeal to the person and their problem, and get
Get
that
the
interest. I
interest
like that a
first.
lot. Yeah, that's really cool. What is your book called?
Laser language for sales, networking, and marketing, the art and
Okay.
science behind great communication. It's an ebook.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. Yes, a great resource for people. I'll also put that in the description so people can find it
Yeah,
quickly.
apparently there's nobody else called laser language, so if you just look on Amazon for laser
Okay,
language, it comes up. It's like
that's
six
awesome.
bucks or something, and I used to sell it for a lot more, but
Yeah,
hundreds of
that's
people
cool.
buy it directly from me, and I said I'll just post it and put it there.
Yeah.
13
Really nice.
sections with a nuggets in each section in
Okay,
38 pages.
perfect.
Very
It's very short.
It's very to the point. In
That's
my
great.
newspapers, we did the same thing. We didn't write, you didn't get paid to write long things. We wanted to get information to people very quickly. As in
Yeah,
Twitter, having trained people to see things in 140 characters, I said, people don't have time to read anymore. You need to get right to the point, get their attention, and give them information.
that's true. Yeah, I learned that being on Twitter, I learned to keep things very concise, and I think that was a nice lesson.
Yes,
However it works out, I think it's a really nice thing to be able to keep it short and sweet. I think that is a really good thing to know how to do. So talk a bit about networking, your experiences, and this idea of know, like, trust, and how that kind of played into your networking and your connections, because I know you do connecting people too. So talk a little bit about this idea of know, like, trust, and how that has to do with networking and connections.
that is how people make decisions to buy. They know you, they like you, and they trust you. Trust is the first thing. I am fortunate
Mhm.
because I'm so transparent with people. People tend to trust me the moment they meet me. And people ask,
Wow.
how do you do that? Seriously, my partner in one business had a client of 25 years he couldn't get financial information from. I met him on a Friday. On Saturday, I had all his financial information. People tend
Wow.
to trust more. And it's about being open and honest and interested in them, not talking about yourself. Tell me
Yeah.
about you.
I like that though. Transparent is really, really nice.
So,
That's a
and that's
really
the
good
other
word.
thing. Tell me about you. When you start
Yeah.
asking questions, and that's the basis for my book as well, it's about asking questions. Socrates was known as the greatest teacher in history, right? How does the Socratic method work? How did he teach his students? Do you know?
No, I don't think so. No.
He never taught them anything. He only
Oh,
asked them
okay.
questions. He only asked
Okay.
questions.
Very
You see
cool.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You can make a
Yeah,
statement.
tell me more. Tell me more.
You can say you can make a statement and turn it into a question, can't you? You understand?
You can. Yes.
That elicits a response. Asking questions
Yeah.
uses long-term chemical memory. So asking a good question at a networking meeting gets you noticed a lot more than making an announcement about yourself. But asking a good, vibrant question is really important. The most memorable ads in history, for example, are got milk? Where's the beef?
Yeah.
That hasn't been advertised in 40 years, and many people still know it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So asking questions engages long-term memory. Answering questions or cramming for a test is short-term memory, gone in 2 to 4 days. But the other things are there. Most sales managers, sales experts will say, oh, you've got to ask questions, but they don't know why. The reason you ask questions is to engage the other person. So you say, you can ask them 2 questions and they'll go on for 20 minutes. How did you get to be where you are? And shut up. Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? And shut up. And the person will tell you, you respond, and now you have a relationship. And that's the important part about know, like, trust. How do you get to know somebody? How do you get to like them? How do you get to trust them? Well, you start sharing that information. As I shared with you before we got on the air, I shared some things with you that were confidential and private, but it was open and transparent. How did that make you feel?
Mm-hmm. Like you trusted me.
Exactly.
Just building that trust. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of
So
goes both ways.
when you share something with somebody of yourself, they tend to want to share it back, which you
Mm-hmm.
started to do. That is part of the process of know, like, share. How do you get to know somebody? Ask them questions. How do you get to like somebody? I like that you do that, or I appreciate that you've done that. And trust, well, I'm going to share something of me with you. That's the process. So I like the fact that you have this know, like, trust concept. I haven't stated it this way often before, but that's how it works.
That's really cool. I think that's very helpful and very easy thing for people to incorporate into their everyday is just being being more open to asking questions. I think what's interesting about the question too, when you put it that way with like got milk, is that in your brain you are thinking about the answer. So that's why it's really interesting to use that in advertising, even though you're not actually going to get the answer to that question because it's on a billboard. But what it does is it opens up this thing in your brain of just like, this is a question. How am I going to answer it? So that's really interesting to use it that way.
As
It's
you know,
cool.
I'm a scientist by background. I've done many things, and I taught brainwave control classes where I learned that the way the brain is operating at a given time, at a different brain frequency, determines a lot of the voltage in the brain and the storage information, the retaining of information. So I put the two of those together, and the asking questions is part of that. So the strongest
Okay.
states of, the strongest states of mind for learning are expectancy,
Okay.
suspense, and confusion. It's like a confused mass of people. Someone gets an idea, they go. Well, the strongest state of mind for programming the brain is expectancy. The best speakers,
Okay.
the best speakers pause before they make the main
Yeah.
point. John Wayne,
Keep
for
them on
those who
the edge of
still,
their seat.
John Wayne, who still many people may remember as a great actor, practiced in
Yeah.
front of the mirror that pause before he'd say something.
Oh,
And
okay.
so people have learned that. So pausing before the main point builds expectancy, and it
Yeah.
actually raises the voltage in the brain. Now, when you ask a question of somebody, their brain is changing a little bit. As you pointed out, you start thinking about the answer, you're at a different brain frequency. And that's what embeds the information more. Plus, it uses more voltage in the brain. Operating at the alpha level increases the voltage in the brain, not the frequency, but the voltage by 5 to 10 times. And that's where learning
Yeah.
takes place effectively. Well, if you want them to learn about you, get their attention in that way. So know, like, trust, ask questions.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. That's actually really different than, any of the other interviews that I've done. But very actionable and easy to incorporate. So that's really cool.
The ultimate selling question. Would you like to know that one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's say, pick a business, or I'll pick one. like painting. I used that originally. Okay.
Okay.
If there were a way you could get your estimate done, your painting done in the most comfortable way, economically, at the right price, with people you enjoyed working with, and could sleep better at night, would you be interested?
Yes.
Now, I've got a positive response. I never said that I
Yeah.
do that, but I said if there were a way you could get what you want,
Yeah.
and implied that I could be the one to do it. I didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
I just said, would you be interested? So it's
Yeah.
got your interest, and that's how I trained my salespeople in sales. They would go to all the successful business owners, and a business owner is still in business, I define as successful, and they would ask them questions. We didn't have to create new ads. We would find out how they sold. If you were to call the painter, for example, and say, why I got referred to you, why should I use you? What do you think they're going to answer?
Probably how many years of experience, how many houses they've painted, how
No,
many people work with them. No.
no, no. The best
Okay.
successful people don't answer the question. They begin asking you questions. Is this for
Oh,
interior?
okay.
Is this for interior or exterior? Are you the
Yeah.
decision maker, or you need a second person? Do you like
Okay.
warmer colors or harsher colors? Do you want it done quickly, or do you need it can be done over the spring? They start asking questions, and in that question asking process, everybody who does that, that's their elevator pitch. The painter who gets on the elevator or goes to a party or a networking group, if he's asked, well, why should I see you're a painter, why should I use you? There's a million painters out there, and everyone who says, well,
Yeah.
I'm the best, well, everyone's going to say, I'm the best. So instead, they
Yeah.
start asking questions. If they become successful, it's because they know how to ask the right questions. I sent my salespeople to their place of business, and I said, let's role play. Sit down. Tell me what you say when somebody says this to you. And it sometimes takes a while to draw it out of them, but they all have a standard approach of asking questions. We would take those questions and go back to the office, incorporate them in an ad, throw some graphics around it, come back, and the business owner would say, oh, this is a brilliant ad. Why? Because
Yeah.
it said what he said or she said.
Yeah. I love that. It's kind of a paradigm shift too, if you think about it.
It
I
is.
think it will yeah, it switches the paradigm a bit. Yeah. Well, let me ask you, because we're talking about all of this. Have you ever gotten feedback that that was very impactful for you, that was very helpful for you in your businesses?
All feedback is impactful and important. All of it.
Answer.
Absolutely. Whether it's positive or negative, all of it you learn from. And that's how you make your
Yeah.
business better. If I
Yeah.
find
Good
that
answer.
someone feels wonderful about something we're doing, we'll do more of it. If I find someone doesn't like something, we'll address it, or somebody, or something that was said. And I have this every day. I'm still doing it every day in all my other businesses. And I still look for that feedback. Sometimes I will solicit it. So I will say, if you're happy with what you got, again, in a question form, if you're happy with what you got, would you be willing to share some comment about that online? Again, questions, not telling people to do it.
Yeah.
And it's all the art of communication. It's the art and the science behind it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. And what's interesting though is it sounds like the art of communication is asking questions, which also comes back to listening and, being very observant and
The old
being
one
a
mouth, two
very,
ears. Yep.
yeah, very observant listener. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And somebody had mentioned that in one of my other podcasts. They said when you walk into a room, don't even think about what you're going to say. Just listen. That's the first thing you can do, is just listen to everything going on, which was a really great thing to, because it's interesting too, because people, when they go into a networking, if they've never done it before, they get really scared they're nervous. How am I going to do this? What is this going to be like? But if you just listen,
What
it
even more than
takes all
that,
the stress away.
even more than listening, ask. Tell me about you.
And then yeah, and then ask questions. Yeah, if you just
They're naturally going to
listen,
ask.
just go in and
Yeah,
listen.
they're naturally going to
Yeah.
ask about you eventually. Don't come in telling them about
Mm-hmm.
you. Ask about them and
Right.
be genuinely interested. You know,
Yeah.
and then what I would do is I'd take people around, teach them how to do it, and I'd introduce them to somebody I knew there. Once I am in a group I know, and they're
Mm-hmm.
so appreciative of that. And tell them about you, and
Yeah.
and here's so and so, and then I put together one, two, three people. So and it's a lot of fun too, and yet you feel rewarded for having helped people that way, understanding that everything we do in life, and this is a philosophy of the Constitution of the United States, as well as the understanding of how humanity really works. Every human being does everything for what I would call selfish interest. Okay, not
Oh,
greedy, but selfish. Every decision we make in life is based on us. My example is if you're hanging from a cliff by your fingernails and your child is hanging next to you, and with your last ounce of strength, you throw that child to safety while you fall to your demise, who'd you do it for? Didn't
wow.
do it for the child. You did it for yourself, for the feeling you had
Okay.
at that moment, that instant. It was more important to save the child than you. And that was
Okay.
the decision you made. It made you better, made
Yeah.
you feel better. And that's how people make decisions. So know, like, trust is their process of getting to that decision point of what's good for me. That's why when you ask questions, you're getting to the reality of what they want.
Do you know that what I'd really like to do, and it's on my list of my next blog, is to talk about giving people feedback as being on the same team. Because to go back to what you said, if we do everything for our own benefit and we see this person as being on the same team,
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to give them better feedback if we do that. Because ultimately, it's not like, well, I don't want them to be better than me. It's like, no, I want you to be better than me or better than me because we're on the same team.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so I that's like my next blog I want to do. And that just it's interesting that you said that because, that makes a lot of sense that, ultimately whatever we do, we're doing it for ourselves. But if you're on the same team with somebody, then making them better is doing it for yourself.
I can take
So,
that one step further.
okay.
I have a very diverse background, more than you can ever imagine. I've read the Old Testament, the New Testament, part of the Quran.
Wow.
I went from agnostic to atheist to beyond atheist, what I call non-theist.
Whoa.
Had a spiritual experience over 50 years ago, turned around. I would call myself spiritual now. I,
Yeah.
I began as a lightly oriented Jew, and I'm still
Okay.
Jewish. But I married a woman who was a Christian Scientist, Episcopalian, born in Cuba, an American. I married a woman who was Jewish who had a devout Italian Catholic husband, so my stepkids were raised half Italian Catholic, half Jewish every week.
Oh my
I had a
gosh.
girlfriend for years who was a born again Christian. I lived with a Greek Orthodox for 20 years. My last girlfriend
Wow.
was Irish Catholic,
Even that old.
and I'm much older than I look. Uh, and those are all long-term relationships. The point is, though,
Yeah.
that the Greek lady and I went to study Kabbalah. You ever heard of Kabbalah?
Haven't. No.
It and
Oh,
this is really weird because we're interested in everything.
yeah.
We it is the secret, hidden, mystical part of Judaism. It hadn't been talked about in
Oh,
2,000 years. Only learned
okay.
Jewish men over the age of 40 had the right to even say the word. It was a series of books
Wow.
which I have up here, uh, written in a cave 2,000 years ago. So she and I read some books on it and went to a 10-week course, knowing that we're just learning. The
Yeah.
value I got out of that could be applicable here. There were
Yeah.
there were a couple of things. Now, first of all, I don't speak Hebrew or read Hebrew, but there were a couple of Israelis in the class that verified this. The books were written in
Yeah.
Aramaic, translated to Hebrew, and then English. And
Okay.
here's how it occurred. Now, this is a little bit off track, but this might be valuable. I had been to 3 Jewish funerals, which I don't like, and had asked 3 rabbis, what does Judaism teach about life after death? Because I never heard anything about it. And their answer was,
Yeah.
we don't address that issue. And I said, wait a minute. This culture is almost 6,000 years old. You put 2 Jews in a room, you got 3 opinions to begin with. So how have we not discussed this? Jesus was the most
Yeah.
successful Jew we had, and the difference between Christianity and Judaism primarily is that in the Old Testament, God was an angry God or a vengeful God, and
Yeah.
life after death wasn't addressed. In Christianity, God is depicted as a loving
Huh.
God, and there's life after death. And he was a
Right.
Jew to begin with. So I started
Yeah.
asking, well, here's what came up. It turns out that over half the world believes in reincarnation. Where do you know where that belief comes from? Unbeknownst to me, Judaism. But they
Okay.
said in the beginning, here's the thought process. In the beginning was the infinite light, and the infinite light gave rise to the infinite vessel to receive the light. And the vessel's every desire was fulfilled instantly. But being of the light, the vessel wanted to be like the light. And the only way the vessel could be like the light was to separate from the light. And in the instant of separation, millions of vessels were created. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm a physicist. That's the Big Bang Theory of the universe, written 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So I started to listen. I like the idea of light. And they said, okay,
Okay.
when you bring light to someone, whether your children or a friend or a relative or an enemy or whatever, when you bring light to someone and they take it, that's great. You feel great, that's great. When you bring light to somebody and they don't take it, it's just as great because you walk away with the light. They
Wow.
just weren't ready for it at this time in their life, or if you think of it otherwise, in this life. Okay?
Wow.
So conceptually, that takes the angst out of you when trying to share something with your kids, trying to force it down their throat. They're not ready. Okay? It's not
Yeah.
good enough. They're not ready. And we
Yeah.
use a lot of tension in life, understanding that. So when you are
That's
meeting with
amazing.
somebody and they're different, show genuine interest. You may not agree with
Yeah.
them. They may not be ready for the light you bring them. Understand that. You can't force them to take the light.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I I was at a networking event the other day, and on my way there, a car honked at me. And I thought it's got to be somebody from my group. It's got to be somebody that knows who I am, and they're going to meet me out there because the car kind of went in front of me. And when I got to the meeting, this person said, just started talking. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And what they were saying was that I was swerving. They were like, "What were you doing? Like you were swerving around, blah blah blah. What were you doing?" And it was probably that I was running late and I had just turned this corner, so I was probably like, kind of speeding around that corner. Not necessarily really fast, but right there, a lot of times I have to turn right on red. So I'm like trying to get around that corner real quick because, there's people coming. And I didn't right away want to hear that feedback. But when I thought about it, I got in the car and I thought about it and I thought, this person is saying to me, watch this. Because from my perspective back here, you're swerving a lot. That could get me pulled over. I don't want to get a ticket. I'm not trying to get a ticket. And so I sent him a message later and I said, thank you so much for that feedback. Because he could have not said anything. He could have not even given me that feedback. And maybe I would have gotten a ticket the next day.
So now you
And
want
I
to go
sent
back
him a
and say thank you, don't you?
I did. Yeah, I did. I sent him a message. I said, thank you for the feedback. And I sent him a picture of a little girl in a Jeep doing a wheelie, just so he knew what I was talking about, the feedback. But that's so interesting that you said that because right away I wasn't ready for that light. When he said it to me, I wasn't ready. But I do feel like him just saying it to me was his opportunity to release that, to be like, here, I'm giving this to you. And so I love that. And it just was a really cool example. And that was really, really cool. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I love all of your thoughts about questions too. I think that could really help somebody with their networking, just kind of switching that paradigm and be listening and asking questions. And it takes a lot of the stress off of a situation and
It
it
makes it
helps you
so much
to
easier.
start. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
networking
That's
is
so
easy
cool.
if you do that. You walk into a
Yeah.
room
It's
and you
not stressful or
walk up to
hard.
somebody and
Right.
say, "Hi, tell me about you." Not "Hi, I'm here. Let
Yeah.
me tell you about me." Just tell me about you. What do you
Right.
do? And you
Yeah.
ask that question to somebody, they're off. They're running.
Right. I love that. Thank you
We
so
were the,
much.
as I
Those are
said, the
great.
official publications of chambers of commerce, and so I have a
Yeah.
huge network of people that I've met, and I run into people all the time, all over the country. No matter, I was in a food store yesterday afternoon on the way home, and a guy walked by and said, "Oh, I told you the story." He said, "Oh, I played pickleball with you Saturday. I really loved your story. Da 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 da. It was inspiring, which made me feel good." And the lady behind me in line started asking about it. She and I sat down, and I told her about some of the other things that I told you about recently. And it
Yeah.
made me feel good and made her feel good. And I said, this is my opportunity to share some light. She was open to it. I walked away
Wow.
with the light.
Yeah. That's amazing. You know, you mentioned, and now I'm gonna forget what it was. You had said that, oh, pickleball.
Yes.
So how long have you been playing?
Since I recovered from the hospital from dying, about
Okay.
3.5 years, I think, 4 years maybe now.
Okay. Had
I'm
you ever played pickleball before?
No, I lost every
So,
muscle in my body when I was in the hospital. I had to rebuild that
yeah,
first.
right. Yeah. And what was that like starting a new thing after all of that? What was that
I
like?
am self-motivated. I'm self-disciplined about things, and I borrowed a paddle, which I used borrowed for over a year, and I got a ball and I hit it up against the garage that I was
Oh,
where I was
okay.
staying, and practiced against the garage because nobody else was playing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I was motivated to learn something new.
Literal
Yourself,
feedback.
yes. The
That ball's
idea,
coming right back.
well, it's one of those things I've always believed in life. Learn something new. It's out of the old Walt Disney something when I was a kid. Learn
Yeah.
something new. And it really is good because as you learn something new, there's something to learn forever. I would like to live to be at least 1,000. Okay.
Wow.
I'm
You go.
78. I'm partly robotic now with this, and I'm shooting for
Wow.
at least 150. And I'm not kidding
Nice. Yeah. That's so cool.
because there's so
And
much to
the other
learn.
thing I wanted to mention was you talked about the chamber. And, for anybody out there that isn't in a networking group, or maybe you don't have access to a networking group, chambers are really amazing.
Yes.
And I am in my local chamber. Our chamber president is so great. I could call him and he would answer the phone and talk to me, and he's amazing. And I wouldn't say that's probably true for every,
No, it's
president of
not.
every chamber,
No, it's not.
but you should always just try it. Go to the chamber, go to a lunch event, get the vibe for it, because it's so great to be connected to people locally, right down the street. Even if you have an international business, it's so great to be connected to people.
And
So I
usually the
wanted to
first
mention
meeting or
that
two
too.
is free. So you get to try it out.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you get to meet people even if you don't join, you get to meet people. So, yeah. So I really love our chamber. It's wonderful. I have been welcomed, and everybody treats me great, even though what I do is a little less traditional. I don't walk in like, oh, yeah, I have a brick and mortar and I have 20 employees, but yet they've been really open to everything that I'm doing and very supportive. So, yeah, so that's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned it because I hadn't talked about that a lot, but I think everybody should look into their local chamber for sure. Yeah.
Well, as I said, we were members of 13 chambers of commerce and 9 other networking groups. So I went to a lot of
Wow.
networking meetings.
Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you so much, Elliot, for being here. Maybe we'll do this again, in a couple months. It'd be really fun to get the continuation of your story.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I thank you so much. You're absolutely welcome. I'm so glad we met. And, I definitely want to keep in touch with you. You said I have to give you my information uh for your connections, master connections. Is that
I'm
what it is?
my other business that I started 7 or 8 years ago. Um, I'm the master connector, what I call connections master, and I got that.
Okay.
I got that website, which is great. I have to have it
Yeah.
redeveloped. I got hacked when I was in the hospital 4,000 times. So that's another story. And
Oh no.
oh yeah, yeah,
I'll help you. I
that's
can
never
help you
fully
with that.
recovered. But I have over 7,900 contacts in my database that I've met, and I try to connect people with resources.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, yeah. Please, we'll stay connected and is it just connectionsmaster.com? Is that what it is?
Connectionsmaster.com, but
Okay.
you're not going to see anything there except a holding page about what I do.
Oh, okay.
But it's
Okay.
an email is Elliot, Elliot, at connectionsmaster.com. Connections plural,
Okay.
master singular. But I do a lot of
That's
other things,
fabulous.
do consulting, I do we raise funds for businesses. We do all kinds of things.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I'm gonna create a no like trust survey for you so you can check it out and see what you think. And, if you feel like sending it out, you can customize that report if you want to put a little message on it or change the questions at all. And then you could, if you want to send it out to your people and see, what you get back, that would be really cool
Isn't
too.
it interesting that you're going to do a survey and what is a survey? All questions,
Questions. Yeah, that's
isn't
amazing.
it?
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch really soon.
Good to know you. I like you, and I trust you.
Well, that's like the perfect way to end this whole podcast. So, thank you for that.
Thank
I
you.
know you and like you and trust you too, which is weird too because we've never met in person and yet I feel like I know you and I definitely like you and I like you've given me no reason not to trust you. So that's really cool.
Nice to meet you.
You
Thank you.
too. Bye.
Bye bye.